So last week you may remember that we went over what was essentially Dan Jarvis setting out his stall essentially for what he hoped would be Boris Johnson actually fulfilling his promises on, quote, levelling up the North. And of course, as I have said before, the Conservatives are more likely to level up the North than they are to actually increase child benefits. And obviously, you can guess what the chances of them doing that are in the first place. So, it's an absolute. What did we expect? It's the Tories. Of course, they're not going to spend money, but there you go. I mean, one of the things that has come out about this during the whole furlough thing was that if Rishi Sunak decided that he was going to actually tax the rich and close the tax loopholes that rich people pay accountants for to essentially find and get them to pay less tax, we could have paid for the furlough bill twice over. It's an astronomical number, it really is, but of course the Conservatives aren't going to do that. So before we get into this article and we go over more of Rishi Sunak's incredible, broken and delusional budget of a chancellor that he really is, please do remember to hit that like and share button. Also, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link, and thank you very much to the people that do support me that way. Your support is very much appreciated. So, let's get on with this. So, this comes from the Yorkshire Bylines, and the title of the article is A Broken Budget and a Delusional Chancellor. So now we know each of the central messages that the Conservative Party chancellors have driven home for decades has turned out to be wrong. We'd been told that there was no alternative other than 10 years of grinding austerity for ordinary people, accompanied by tax cuts for the well-off. Now the Chancellor has discovered that when the economy is down in the dumps, it is necessary to invest in order to avoid heading into an even worse depression. We had been told that the best way to rejuvenate an economy is to set the marketplace free. Now it turns out that in a crisis, markets make downturns worse, and it is necessary for governments to step in and steer the economy towards recovery. We have been told that continuous planning by the state is a dangerous, clumsy way of running anything, and that the private sector will always offer a better solution. It turns out that when push comes to shove, you can rely on people who have chosen a life of dedicated service to working for others to do a good job, in contrast to relying on contracting out services to people you happen to know over an overpriced mess. The NHS and care workers has delivered astonishingly well. Local government has rapidly provided a huge program of financial assistance to small businesses, where privatised test and trace has been an inefficient disaster that still isn't functioning properly. And this isn't the way that they kept telling us that it would work. After all that list of failures, you might have expected the latest Conservative Party Chancellor to address the nation to do so with a bit of humility. Not a bit of it. Instead, we got a recognition of how much needs to be changed, and while we have the determination to get back to a warped idea of what is normal as quickly as possible, disguised by the most effective smokescreen that can possibly be managed. So, we have much to talk we have so much to talk on a quote green industrial revolution, accompanied by an extensive program of road building and a determination to get people back to flying as soon as possible. We have endless babble about levelling up and investing in the north, and the regions accompanied by month after month of northern businesses being asked to lock down without adequate financial compensation. We have much to talk about the importance of keeping schools open and educating our people, accompanied by yet another era of pay freezes for teachers who have been putting their lives at risk, also accompanied by an utterly inadequate programme to train unemployed workers and equip them to transfer to new jobs. What we don't have is any honesty about the source of all the money that's being spent and what it could mean for the future if it was in the hands of a genuinely responsible government. After 2008, the financial crash, the 895 billion of free money that was printed by the Bank of England and fed into the banking system to rescue it, that money fueled a stock market rise, which ensured that many of those whose reckless and financial gambles caused the crash soon got back to making good money. Those who had nothing to do with the crash, like doctors, nurses and teachers, took the brunt of all this pain. Now is the time of a new crisis, and it is being funded in much the same way, but with a little more intelligence about how to spend all that quantitative easing money. The Bank of England is busy printing a lot more money and lending much of it free of charge to the government to help us dig us out of this crisis. That will not cause any significant inflation because there is plenty of spare capital in the economy. It need not add 1 penny to the national debt if the government chose to write off all the borrowing from its own bank. That could have easily been done 10 years ago to avoid all that austerity. Unfortunately, instead of learning the lesson, we have threats of a return to austerity further down the line, not because of the economic realities require it, but because of the flawed economic theories of the Conservative Party. And they tell them that that the money the country has borrowed from the bank it owns must eventually be repaid. Come back, Keynes. All is forgiven, or it would have been if the Chancellor actually understood what the great man actually wrote. And then we have the biggest lie of all. Promises that Britain is about to proudly lead the world once again thanks to the wonders of Brexit. It doesn't look that way to the farmers who are about to be driven out of business or into adopting the same dreadful practices as the worst chemical-soaked industrial farmer from the US, Canada or Australia. It doesn't look that way to many of the haulage drivers about to be stuck in long lorry queues in Dover. That's even if they can get a pass to actually enter Kent. It doesn't look that way to the countless business owners who are watching the nightly programmes telling them to prepare themselves for Brexit, who don't even know what they are actually preparing for 6 weeks before it actually happens. And after a decade of being peddled by a badly flawed set of economic policies, the latest Conservative Party Chancellor has to ditch many of his most deeply held convictions in the face of the economic and social realities of the genuine crisis that we are in. Yet, he remains stubbornly determined to ensure the country persists with a huge, damaging Brexit at the worst possible of times. The consensus is that Rishi Sunak is currently the most effective minister and the most popular politician the Conservatives have got. And that, unfortunately, is probably true. And we are really all in absolute deep trouble. We really are. This budget that was been released is going to be a nightmare. I did tell you, and I've been telling you now, prepare for austerity on steroids. And I think that next year we will get that even more. So much for all the clapping that we did to all those nurses and doctors who risked their lives and are still risking their lives to help So many people, not just, with COVID, but who have, general illnesses through, cancer and all the rest of, just general stuff that happens normally throughout the year. Throw COVID on top of it. It's becoming an absolute nightmare. And something's got to break. And I think Brexit is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. I really do. And I can't predict what is going to happen, when it's going to happen, but something is going to happen. And this will be the thing that just breaks it all. So, with that, thanks for watching. Please do hit that like and share button. And of course, if you would like to support the channel in a different way, please head down below to have a look at my Patreon as well as my one-off donation link. And thank you very much to the people that do support me. Your support is very much appreciated. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.